Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a really long time since I've posted anything, and I wanted to give you guys a video on why essentially I just stopped playing Arc Raiders altogether. As many of you know on the channel, I went pretty hard into Arc Raiders and put in lots of hours, went through the first expedition, and then was getting ready to go into the second expedition, and I just didn't get the videos done in time that I wanted to for that release, and I also didn't get to go on the expedition. At that point, my life actually started to go straight into the shitter at that point. Well, I started creating all the videos for Arc Raiders. What happened was one of our elder cats got pretty sick, and sick to the point where I was extremely depressed on all the things that were happening. It was coming at us from all angles, and he just didn't get any better. And sadly, we had to make a very hard choice and either make sure that he was no longer going to suffer. During that time, I also missed the release of the expedition. I didn't get any of the material done for it, so I couldn't go on it, which made me start evaluating how I was playing and or if I was going to continue with Arc Raiders, since I was so far behind in content creation at that point that I just completely fell out of touch with the game altogether and its current state. I even came back in enough time to play to see a new map, but even then it didn't keep my attention for very long. See, from the beginning, since we've been looking at Arc Raiders and waiting for it to release, and even after the playtest, one of my major concerns was the fact that the game essentially had some weird in-game loop to it that we eventually found out was going to be Expedition. Now, before anybody says anything, I'm not saying that Arc Raiders is a bad game by any means. Obviously, it's a great game. I played the shit out of it in the tune of almost 400 hours. And there's going to be people who are going to argue with me on this point when it comes to the in-game, because frankly, there isn't any in this game, and that's what I was afraid of from the beginning. In some of my videos that you saw before the release of any of my other Arc Raider videos, it was the number one concern that I had when it came to the game altogether. And to be frankly honest, that's exactly what it is. Now, the argument that people are going to make is that it's an extraction game and it's going to have that kind of a loop. But that's not what I'm referring to. I fully expect an extraction loop and having to be able to do things over and over and over again. But that is the only substance to this game. See, Arc Raiders has suffered from an identity crisis for a while now, in which the developers weren't exactly sure on how it was, and they switched gears in the middle of development and added extraction and PvP in either to have that kind of tension inside of the game. Now, they're certainly not the first extraction shooter or game for that matter to put a shared extraction location to create tension, especially closing as much of a circle. But at the end of the day, it's just the reverse opposite of a BR that we've been slowly getting out of in the past couple of years. Instead of having a collapsing circle, instead you have timed extraction zones that are going to close at a specific period. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with these mechanics, but it does shorten the life cycle of the game, because every game begins with a height of people playing it, and then it levels out, and then it has fall off, and we're starting to see some of the fall off. Now, I don't think we're ever going to see the game dead like everybody's putting out their thumbnails on, where everyone's like, Arc Raiders is dead, Arc Raiders is dead, and that's not really the case. The game has 50,000 people playing it through Steam alone, which is more than almost any other extraction shooter since release. It's not going to die anytime soon. The reason why you're seeing content creators leave is that they burn themselves out in the basis of playing the game and finding out that there's really jack shit to do at the end of it besides PvP and make your own content, as well as turning it into some kind of farming simulator when you go into the PvE route and you don't shoot players and you get on friendly servers. Top of that, the most challenging things that are inside the game can be done solo by some of the top end players, as well as a group of players of 3 can do them, when we have been solely expecting this game, by the way they've been presenting it to us throughout the years, that there was going to be giant group mechanics at the end of it, maybe even raiding. And that was peeled away the second they decided to put it into an extraction shooter. They wanted all the tension being between the extraction and PvP. That can only carry a game for a lot of your favorite content creators and influencers so far before it starts to run out of content. When you do 400 hours into the game and all you have left to do is create your own clips, farm the same stuff, or kill the same bosses that you're able to kill as everybody else, to only wind up being killed by the number of snipers and rats at the end of it, the repetitive loop of the game becomes quite boring to do, especially if you're a content creator and you're on it and you're doing it for lots of hours every day. Now, the average player is not going to have that problem because they're not playing it as much as any influencer or content creator, especially myself when I'm doing consumer review. But it does point to the fact that eventually, unless they inject more information into the game or more things to do into the game in a more timely manner, you're just going to wind up with people eventually coming to the same thought process because they're going to get tired of doing the same shit every fucking day, which is probably the main point that everybody's going to argue with me about, because that is the point of the game, is to do that loop. The problem isn't that it is doing that loop. The problem is that the loop never changes for long periods of time, and even if they put new things into the game, they're not new events, and they certainly do not pique player interest outside of the first week that you're playing it. This is supposed to be a 10-year project. How do you continue to run that for 10 years if you can burn out all of the content by playing it as a casual player within the first week? Another example of this in another genre is going to be Soul Mask, in which you can play 300 hours of that game and damn near not touch the end of it in any shape or form. Now, of course, that's your standard survival game, pick up stick, pick up rock, make together axe, bonk tree, build shit, right? So while not a fair comparison to the fact that it's a different genre of game, you can find examples of extractions like this too. I hate making the example because we have made the example many times on this channel, but when you compare it to a game like Tarkov, you could put 300 hours into that extraction game and still never touch the end of it. I also know that a lot of people are going to say that's also not a fair comparison because there are two different types of games in the same genre, but they're not designed the same or designed to play the same. And you guys can relax on that because I'm not expecting Arc Raiders to be anything like that of any sort, but I needed to make my point. My point is that if you play this game hard enough, you will just get bored of it, because the game, while good and provides a great amount of value for the money, just doesn't have enough substance to keep a good portion of players still playing it. And that's exactly what happened for me. Now, I'm no power player by any means, but I did have all my eggs into one basket for this game because I was under the impression and the hopes and dreams that it was going to be considerably more and that I was going to be able to spend more time in the game. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and it was resulting in me trying to find a very difficult balance in finding fun, playing something else, and doing my 9 to 5 at the same time. But there's no question that you can get a lot of value from this game, especially if you're someone that plays it on a casual basis, and even more so, I find it with friends. While my experience doesn't speak for everybody or how everybody should enjoy this game, I do find that a large portion of people are going to be in the same boat as me, in which the game is perfect for somebody to play with their friends every now and then after work, but also can wind up boring for someone that spends extra time in it and spending their weekends on it and playing pretty heavily. You're going to eventually figure out that everything is rinse, lather, and repeat, and there's nothing more to add besides killing the queen and the matriarch and some of the other events that are around. But even then, you have to contend with rats at that point. And we all know how the rat problem is in this game. But for me, I went a little too hard on the game instead of filling my content and my time with individual pieces of this game. And I burnt myself out on it. And that's a real thing that can happen in this game until the developers can find a way to provide more substance in the game towards the end of it. In the end, I don't regret my time in Arc Raiders whatsoever. I do wish that I had managed my own time better so that I enjoyed the game over a longer span of time. But it is about that time, and either for me to find something else and moving on from my own grief. Thank you guys very much for watching the video today. I know this was a little long-winded head-talking piece, and I appreciate you watching until the end. Hope to see you in the next video, and I don't know when that's going to be, but thank you for watching anyways. Peace.